Christmas, guys. It is the Christmas season, and welcome to Refined Savage. Another fantastic show for you today. We are getting ready to take our annual holiday break, so we got a couple more podcasts to come for you. And let's start with a little business today with Viking Coffee. Viking Coffee, the best coffee on the planet. You don't want store-bought coffee. It is garbage. You want the best. Check Evan Armstrong's brand out, vikingcoffeeco.com. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout. Get yourself some Old Man Strength brew. It is our signature brand for the show here, and we spent a lot of time and energy picking it out, and Evan is a master at putting it together. So check them out, 10% off with the code VikingCoffee10. Cerberus. Cerberus is the leader in meathead outfitting. They are outfitting some of the strongest people on the planet. You've seen people wearing Cerberus gear at every strongman show you've ever gone to, and they are getting into Highland games, and I'd like to see more and more of my brothers and sisters in kilts wearing Cerberus gear this year. Check out their wrist wraps and knee sleeves. Very good stuff. High quality, meant for taking a beating and keeping you supported. They also have tacky and smelling salts and indoor throwing bags, which I know you guys all need coming up for those indoor throwing competitions and for that Arnold Highland game. So check them out. Cerberus-strength.us. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE10 at checkout. Justin Rohde wants you to know that he is selling the shot put glove. The shot put glove is a piece of equipment that you put on your hand, and it protects your fingers from getting rolled back when you're throwing heavy or overweight shots or stones, or if you're throwing high volume or throwing in the cold weather. The shot put glove is a big helper to keep your hands healthy. You don't want to pull a finger back. It could mean a career-ending injury for some of you. Check them out at roadiesport.com and use the code Savage Sport at checkout. Warrior CBD. Warrior CBD is the best CBD oil on the planet. If you're buying CBD oil from a gas station, or even if you're buying it in some state where it's not quite legal yet, like the shitty state I live in, it's not good stuff. I'm telling you, it's just basically essential oils, and unless you're some weirdo hippie vegan, you don't want anything to do with that kind of CBD oil. Trust the people at Warrior CBD. I use the product. It's the first stuff that I've ever used where I actually noticed some benefit from it, and the benefits are fantastic. WarriorCBDofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout for 20% off. Serious Steel. If you are outfitting a home gym, a commercial gym, a CrossFit gym, anything, a gym at your business or at your school, Serious Steel is the place to go. They have the best prices, the best equipment, and the best customer service around. You can't go wrong with these guys, and I have had fantastic experiences with them. Love these guys to death. Check them out at SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Stay Classy Meats is the way to go, man. I'm telling you what, you don't need a lot of things in your life other than solid, tasty, nutritious meat. Try their bison. The bison is so good. Their bacon is out of this world. Their beefsteaks, just the best, man. Even their friggin' hot dogs are good. I can't understand it, but they've figured it out. I think it comes from the way they treat and raise these animals just outside of Bozeman, Montana on small batch farms. It's great stuff, guys, and the price you can't beat for that much meat being delivered to your house. Check them out at StayClassyMeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Iron and Stone. Iron and Stone Strength up outside of Buffalo, New York. These are our kind of people. They are running a awesome strongman gym up there, and they are producing savages, absolute monsters. And they have some of the coolest gear around. T-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, sweatpants, whatever you need to look sharp, and you will look sharp. It's not this gross, some of these gross brands that you see out with big giant muscle guys on them. You look like a retard wearing that stuff. Check out ironandstonestrength.com. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE at checkout for 20% off. Impact Mouthguards. Impact Mouthguards are one of our new sponsors, and I couldn't be happier. If you're one of these weirdos who grinds your teeth all night long, Impact Mouthguards can help you. If you're a jiu-jitsu player, MMA fighter, judo fighter, football player, anything where there's contact, you want to keep those teeth nice. You don't want to get them knocked out of your head. You also don't want to get concussions. Impact mouth guards can help you. They will take a custom mold of your mouth. They will customize your mouth guard to your teeth and jaw alignment, and then they will customize it with different logos that you can pick out and play with, and they are really, really cool looking. Some of us can't afford awesome looking grills like some of these rappers, right? So you can get an Impact mouth guard that kind of sports whatever brand you're looking to support or whatever you want to say with your mouth guard. Check them out at impactmouthguards.com. Use the code REFINESAVAGE and check out for 15% off. And finally today, the beard struggle. If you've got one of these big, giant, manly beards, you need to keep that thing smelling and looking fresh. And these guys have all the products you can possibly imagine to help with your beard, from beard straighteners and combs, heated beard straighteners, which are really cool looking. They have beard balm and beard oil and all this crazy stuff. Everything you can need to make sure that beard is taken care of. Because if you're going to have a big, giant beard, guys, you got to take care of that thing so that the women want to come anywhere near you. Hey, I've had one of those beards before. It's a lot of work, man, and there's nothing wrong with taking care of it. You got to make sure it looks and smells proper. All right, that's it for sponsors today. Up on the show, my brother, former NCAA hammer champion, former professional Highland Games athlete, now the head motherfucker at Penn State University for the throws, Luke McKay. We had a great conversation, and he's one of these guys where I think he's going to be on the show many, many more times. I had such a great time going out to Happy Valley and talking to my brother. I hadn't seen him in years, and it was great catching up with him. Hope you guys like it. Share this episode with your friends. Happy throwing to all of you. Merry Christmas to all of you. And if I don't see you before then, have a fucking Happy New Year too. All right, guys. Luke McKay. We'll see you at the end.
I was just going through, what do you spend most of the time on? And
what podcasts are you listening to? Make sure that's close to
sure.
it. Yeah.
Obviously, I think Tim Ferriss really got me started.
Yeah.
I think that was number one. And I think Judd Logan got me turned on to Ferriss.
Mm-hmm.
I think his summer read, and then he was kind of live tweeting his thoughts as he was going through it. And I was like, Ferriss, okay. And I looked that up, and that was the wormhole.
Yeah, right.
And then you know how it is. He interviews a person, there's a spinoff, and then I had always thought of Joe Rogan as the
UFC guy.
The UFC guy.
Yep.
Dana White. Mm-hmm. And I had them confused, so then I'm like, okay, let me give him a chance. And then I'm not super into the fighting culture, so I wasn't going to spend a bunch of time listening to those, but then that's background noise for the most part. I'll put those on a ride, this, that, the other. And then whatever you're into. Armchair Expert is a new one.
Who's that? I've never heard of that.
Dax Shepard.
He's like a comedian type actor guy.
Yeah. He did Punk'd
the blonde guy
on MTV,
Punk'd,
and he's married to the beautiful actress that is the princess in Frozen. I can't think of her name, but they have a spin-off company and a bunch of cool stuff. And then HMMR Media is a weekly one with Martin Bingasser and Nick Garcia.
Okay.
It's basically an athletic, kind of throws one.
I have to check that one out. I didn't even know there was throws ones out there.
Yeah, Hammer Media is a cool one. That's the logo on it. And then Life is Short with Justin Long. That's another kind of fun one where he's a Hollywood guy and an actor, but he brings people on, and he's a bit timid, so he's always just he's very he's got a great personality. And then some other sports science one. Obviously the Jocko podcast, Finding Mastery with a sports psych that works with Seattle Seahawks, and that's a pretty cutting edge one.
I'm gonna have to get you to send a couple of those to me, because
Throw Big Throw Far podcast, that's out of Minnesota. Really good throws coach there, and then I'll put on some other different interest ones. So those are kind of the ones that
the first Ferris one I listened to was Jocko's, and
was it?
Blew my mind.
Jesus.
And
he got Jocko on.
He
was his first one.
Yeah,
and then it's been
it's amazing to me you find those guys, and that's what I'm always really trying to do with a lot of the best podcasts we've done are people don't have any idea who they are, and if they like Quincy Perkins was one we did a few weeks ago, and I didn't know who Quincy Perkins was. I was down in Key West, and
the ghost tour guy.
Well, David Sloan was the ghost tour guy, but he was the one who got me on with Quincy, and he's like, while you're down here, you have to interview Quincy, because he's got this amazing life. That's all he told me. So I went and talked to him, and here we're sitting at this rum bar on Duval Street, and he's telling me about being a linguist expert who got recruited by the FBI, but then he went to work for National Geographic, but then he was down in South America, and then the FBI and the CIA want to talk to him about the people he's meeting down there, and then he gets kidnapped by banditos, and they're holding him hostage, and then the cops try to rob him. He's just got this...
That sounds like a movie.
His father's was a drug smuggler, and it was a crazy podcast. So
that's one of the few ones I haven't heard. So I'll listen to that one. It's guys like that, that you find that people have never heard of. That I really dig that you can bring that out. Yeah, we let's we just kind of started this backwards. We're at Penn State University. Luke McKay, we're talking throws. We just got done a tour of the whole facility, which is amazing, and talking about the plans for the new stuff coming in. And how long have you been here now? So this is the beginning of year 4. Came here from Oklahoma State, and prior to that, southeastern Louisiana. Prior to that, a jaunt as a semi-professional thrower, and then I started my college coaching career at Cal Lutheran University in Southern California.
I think I met you. You were you might have been coaching somewhere little, but it was you were a barista first and foremost.
Absolutely. Man. Yeah, that habit hasn't died yet. I still think I am the only USA track and field member or finalist, whatever you can quantify it as, that's ever been sponsored by Starbucks. I was sponsored by them for 3 years, and it was more money than I could ever shake from a Nike, Saucony, Reebok, any shoe company as a discus thrower, hand thrower. Being a finalist, being 4th at best, you're not going to get a contract. You're not going to get a contract from any of those guys, no matter who you know.
And they just did it because you were an employee.
So they have a elite athlete sponsorship program.
Oh shit! I had no idea.
Kind of like the Home Depot job, or now Dick's Sporting Goods has a partnership and a job where you work 20 hours, you get paid 40, or you get free time off or whatever. But Starbucks had. I mean, you got to think how many high-level athletes in any given sport, equestrian, BMX, archery, track and field, are also working at Starbucks. Mm-hmm. It's got to be like a very small percentage. And then on top of that, who is going to take the time to write that letter and inquire? And there was a really long-time manager at a local shop that he said, I think we have a thing that's kind of like, why don't you look into it? And it was like 8 pages in on the website, found it, wrote a pitch, did a big letterhead, and they took care of me for 3 years. It was paid time off, and it was a significant sponsorship.
They're going to get inundated now by track people who are working at Starbucks who have no idea about this.
It's funny, man. I wish, I did it in 2000, I believe it was 10, 11, 12. It might have been 11, 12, 13. But I missed about 8 years where that would have been, better. Yeah. I should have got that job right out of college, worked, in mornings instead of nights, and, my 401k and eventual sailboat is going to be named like something Siren or something Starbucks related, because that money is all just sitting there. Yeah. And it's a great post-college job. Obviously it's
one of those jobs. I always tell, I told my son that he should get a job in a restaurant as soon as possible, and he's working for like a catering place right now. Perfect. Learn how to cook, and then when you get into college, you should learn how to bartend. Yeah. And now, if you get a job, Starbucks is the same way. So if you can be a barista, if you can be a fry cook, if you can be a bartender, you will never go hungry in the United States.
That's right.
Always have somewhere to go.
And it's a skill. It's not, qualification. Everyone needs to eat.
Yeah.
The Starbucks ain't going anywhere.
No, it's getting bigger and bigger, right?
Sure.
I don't even. It's not even like. When you find like gourmet coffee or something like that, but Starbucks is like, it's consistent.
Stable,
you always
consistent.
know what you're getting with them,
Yeah.
So I go there every day. Every single day I get one.
Yeah, I unfortunately do too.
Yeah.
I figure I'm paying into my retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since, we saw each other briefly like 2 or 3
3
years
summers
ago. Yeah.
At Ashland.
But before that, it's been like 2000. What were we just talking? It was like 2011 maybe or something in Wisconsin.
Probably 10, 11. Everything's starting to get a little blurry.
I know, right?
In that era, because 2012 was my last Olympic trials throwing the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
So then that was the end of my throwing career, as it were. So before that, somewhere in there, 2000.
Yeah, right.
I'd have to look at the games.
That great games in Wisconsin with Sarge running the show. Waukesha, Wisconsin. I've told this story before on the podcast. The time you let one go over the stands, the hammer go over the stands, and so you're winding up. It goes over the bleachers.
Man,
I don't know how it didn't kill somebody.
It's funny, man. You think about anyone that knows Highland games, and then compare that to what USA track and field or NCAA track and field or NCAA compliance, looks at with a safety.
Right.
They couldn't be further apart.
No.
You got a semi-coherent athletic director with some snow fence.
Yep.
And you have people that are, maybe have never seen it before, maybe come to this games every year, but with those hammers.
Yeah.
Mainly the hammers are probably the most dangerous.
Yeah, they're the ones that always freak me out,
That left sector line is always suspect.
I had talked to some athletic directors and said, look, we either throw the hammer in the morning when there's no crowd or I'm not coming because this is freaking me out. And luckily, a lot of the other athletes would jump in and say, let's do it in the morning, get it out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever come close to hitting someone or hit someone, you will be carrying that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's tough. I've seen people lose, a season because you one-hopped someone and took out their knee.
Yep.
And now, it's hard to get past that.
Yeah, you can't get it out of your head every time you're getting ready to come through on that last wind and you're freaking out. Right. Craig was the worst. Craig Smith. He threw. He would throw them into the crowd every once in a while. And if you ever wanted to fuck with Craig, you'd just say, the crowd's a little close. That was the only thing that ever got into his head. You could do anything you wanted to Craig, wouldn't get in his head. But if you said, this is a little tight in here, forget about it.
Tight.
Yep, forget about it.
Hands are a little sweaty.
It's the only thing I could ever do to him to get in his head, which was hysterical.
That's funny.
But,
it's been a while. We haven't caught up much.
Yeah. And since you're out here, married, got the baby, and what's that like?
Man,
being an adult.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Turning your phone on and seeing pictures of your son and, just thinking about, the biggest thing, and everyone says it, but you don't really realize how it feels until you're actually in that role is, it'll change your life or your life just began. And I fully agreed with that concept, but you can't really feel how warm that water is until you're actually in it.
Yeah, it was terrifying for me and I tell people this all the time. It was terrifying for the first until he was able to tell me what was wrong with him. It was so scary, and then once he was like, oh, my dad, my stomach hurts. Then you were like, then you could start reasoning and figuring stuff out. Yeah. But I was in a constant state of nerves for the first year or so.
I certainly feel numb right now.
Yeah.
It's...
How old?
Me or him?
Both.
So I am, what year is it? I'm 39 and Parker is 5 months.
Okay, yeah.
So he was born in June, early June. So I actually missed NCAA championships this last year. So his birthday's going to be right around NC's every year, which will always be interesting as to how that works out.
Yeah, right.
But I
just tell him his birthday's different. He's not going to know he's 5 months. Change it now.
It's the 12th.
Right.
But, I mean, the biggest thing, I would be a lot more freaked out if I wasn't married to who I'm married to and having the family support that I have.
Yeah.
Allie's mother is out right now. She's soft retired and has the ability to be out and provide us daycare right now.
Yeah.
So she's living with us and she's getting us through the first 6 months. So we don't have to pack him up, take him to the place, drop him off, worry about he got a cough, anything else. So trying to control that environment has been really awesome and a lot more simple for us. it feels like Groundhog Day for sure.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it's Tuesday. Okay, what's his nap schedule? What are we looking like? But I'm absolutely in love with it. It's amazing. Like changing diapers and waking him up in the morning and seeing his little smile on his face. He's a really chill kid so far. He's really communicative and he's just adorable. I'm looking forward and thinking, one of the first thoughts, like the nail between the head and idea was like, he's going to be 18 when he graduates high school. And then I do the math and I'm like, oh wow, I'm going to be 50. Okay, well, that's the interesting part, right?
And then you become hey, it's nice that your grandpa's here, you know, and it's like,
yeah. So yeah, I'm about to shift it in gear here, you know, as he gets into his first birthday. And you know, it's nice working with kids and staying young and staying active, but we're going to have to keep the foot on the accelerator there and keep that going. Because,
well, I tell you what, and this is two old guys talking. I'm 46, you're 39. Yeah. Didn't 40 seem a lot older when we like?
Absolutely.
Nobody who was 40 was doing the same shit we were doing.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Like nobody's working out, nobody's training. You know, no 40-year-old guys were doing that when I was a kid.
Listening to a number of podcasts and just kind of being aware of the pulse on the culture right now, I think there's not a better time.
Yeah.
There's, I live in a pretty small world, a pretty controlled environment. I'm not out, getting into politics or anything else. Collegiate athletics, family, and that's about it right now. And it's really, it's simple that way. But you're right. No, there's been, and I'll go on a limb to say CrossFit has kind of saved a lot of lives.
Are you doing CrossFit now? Okay.
Well,
I like that.
No. Well, nothing organized because I'm not going to pay the fees to be in a gym. But like, what is CrossFit? It's lifting quickly, right?
Yep.
Have I lifted quickly for half my
life?
Yeah, I have sometimes. But the fact that everything on social media, like, is even available. There's 5 different lifting shoes now, and cross trainers, and neoprene sleeves, and moms and dads, and just the amount of fitness culture that was around in like now.
Yeah.
I kind of compare it to the 70s when like the jogging craze came out. It's just a really different version of it. But I mean, holistic lifestyle and living cleanly and bulletproof coffee and just people exercising and being more active now.
Yeah.
I feel like we're really in a sweet spot.
It's interesting that you say that. And I agree with you 100%. And I think that CrossFit, as screwy as it can be, has been the best thing to happen to the fitness industry ever.
Yeah.
It's got more people training. But when you were talking about back in the day, if you wanted a pair of Olympic weightlifting shoes, you ordered them from Bud Charniga in Detroit, Michigan, and he had them all in his garage because he was like the only Alico distributor in the country. Yeah. And you had those, what were the Javelin, the orange and black Javelin sleeves? Is it Nordic? Not Nordic Sport. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah,
everyone had those same orange and black.
But even now, there's 8 different styles of those.
Yep.
Like my kids are like, "Ooh, let me get the navy blue with the black. It'll match the uniforms." I'm like, my coach ordered those for me at Georgia, and I had those suckers for 8 years, man.
I patched them, like I would put, because like they had the holes in the back of the knee and they would rip, so I was like putting more neoprene behind them. And I just love those things so much. They were the only option you had.
Yeah, the fitness industry, like you said, with CrossFit coming up and just making it more just in the zeitgeist of what's actually, in every other, town you drop in and you can get a lift in. There's a drop-in fee and that type of thing. It's great.
Yeah, we have people coming from all over. They just throw in functional fitness in Google and it pops up, and you're meeting these people. But speaking of lifting your whole life, so you're from Southern California originally? Southern or Northern?
From Northern California. Born and raised in Modesto, California. Home of George Lucas. American
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then made it down to Los Angeles in college, and then the family relocated. So that's where the Southern California thing.
And your old man is kind of a throwing legend. For those people out there that are, I first became aware of your dad Even though he was a Highland Games guy, but from the ring, the old ring. For people are going to think we're super old, but you used to just have. You didn't have all these social media outlets on the internet, so you had the ring, and
one outlet.
Ring was kind of like social media.
Ring was awesome.
Yeah, so it was just a bunch of guys on there talking shit and talking training, and it was all just throwers, you know. And you'd have
mostly positive.
Mostly positive, yeah. You had every once in a while you had somebody on there who.
Yeah, you want to stir the pot.
Right. Sure. But that's how I became familiar with your dad, and your dad was a pro Highland Games athlete, right? And then is he still coaching now?
So he helps out at the 1620 Ironwood Throw Center. Is right down the mountain from where he lives. So he goes down there 2-3 days a week, maybe more. I'm sure.
You're right.
But and just helps with the local high school kids there. And then when the Ironwood kids come around in the summer and some of the post-collegiates and stuff like that. He helps some people online as well. Yeah.
I have never seen anyone, and we've been around throwers forever, I've never seen anyone who loves throwing more than your father. I've never even heard of anyone who could come close. It just, what a passion.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. He self-taught, and when he was in college, the typical story of, a little bit of an attitude with the coach challenges, you challenge, kicked off the football team, throw your football helmet, track coach sees you throw the helmet, hey, you should come out for throwing, that type of story.
You have a talent for
Yeah,
this.
right. And then it was javelin first, and then shot put second. Discus was kind of always around there, but Neil Steinhauer, former indoor world record holder in the shot put, was in Turlock, California as well. Dad was out throwing, teaching himself 8mm, film and, early publications and maybe Track and Field News. I think you'd have to go and look those up. So, you're a month, maybe 2-3 weeks to film and then get that back. So, anyways, Neil was around, I think gave him 3, 4, 5 coaching sessions, and it was like, okay, do this, turn your foot more, 100 reps, and then I'll see you next week. And that was the little bit of coaching he had. So I think with that little bit of coaching and a lot of passion, you got to kind of find your way. Then he started coaching at Turlock High School, had some good success there, and then Modesto Junior College was right up the road. And, that's the home of the former S&W Relays, which became the California Relays, which is where that discus, all the Ora McMurray films, that background is in a lot of 80s, late 70s, early 90s throws with these big discus throwers. There's kind of a little bit of a wind tunnel between the California Delta and the Bay Area that comes through the Central Valley. And until the pine trees got 50 years old, there was a really nice little sector there.
Yeah.
Ben Plunkett, Mac Wilkins, Knut Yeltness, Al Order.
I remember seeing the videos with the pine trees in it.
All those pine trees, that's Modesto. And so that's Dad's office. That door behind the ring is Dad's office. And so that's where I grew up. So that was normal.
Yes, that was kind of...
was like, I've got 3-ring binders with Carl Lewis and Mac Wilkins autographs every year.
Yeah. Northern California was a place to be if you were a thrower.
Right. So everything, if throws, San Jose and Speed City and everything that went on around there with Mac and Oldfield and that whole group, that was San Jose. And then, the Santa Cruz Mountain Games and Feuerbach and those types of things. So, you don't get the perspective until you look back on it. But that, that's what I grew up around.
You might be the last link to that. A lot of those guys are going away, and
yeah, and you name those names a little bit now.
Yeah,
and only the most.
Is Mac still
nerdy.
coaching somewhere?
Mac is he's helping. I think he still works with Ehsan Haddadi, but he's just international, high-level talent. I think he's kind of handpicked for that now. I know he had a good run at the training center in Chula Vista, and then took that after Concordia. So that those heydays now are definitely something that isn't known by most kids.
Those guys were remember the Sports Illustrated article, The Old Man and the Discus, and the larger than life characters that they talked about that. And if you're out there listening, check out. I read that whole article on a podcast when we first started, but I don't know if it's still out there.
That's a good one. Yeah,
but check out. You can just Google it, Old Men and the Discus, and it talks about Plucknett up in the cabin with the skins hanging from his walls and all the cats and
I feel really fortunate to have been around Ben a little bit. So Ben through the Highland Games with
I met him. I met him when I was probably first or second year amateur.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so there's just having just a taste of that.
Yeah,
he was just it's funny. I was a kid, and so he was a guy that threw with Dad. And
right.
Guys that throw with Dad were all the same. I didn't realize that he was the American record holder in the discus, and Carl Braun, Jim McGoldrick,
Ryan Vieira.
Well, I knew Ryan more because Dad coached him in all the way through junior college, and then he's still in the 209 in the same area. But those guys, it's funny to look back. The fact that Ben Plunkett I just thought he was a Highland Games guy.
Yeah,
at the end of his career type of thing, not knowing that he had,
Your old man was. First of all, your old man was one of the pioneers of online coaching. The only problem is your father talks in code.
Yeah, I know, man.
So
it's something else.
It only makes sense to him. So I remember sending him a video, and he sent me back like an extensive
paragraphs
and paragraphs of what I needed to do and how I needed to train. And I understood about 40% of it. I'm like, what in the hell is this?
Pretty good.
I'm trying to get like a translation.
Yeah, it's funny too because my wife Allie is new into that game, and I'm like, okay, so here's what you got to do. You got to cover up 3 lines, then read the one. There's and then the cap blocks is a little different. Yes. For emphasis, he's not yelling, but okay, that's going to be misspelled because it's voice text. I'm like, okay, well, but it hasn't always been that way. But it's always. The voice text hasn't always been that way, but it's always been in code.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think he kind of gets a kick out of it. There's a little bit of a giggle. Of, maybe the wise man will find the riddle.
Right. Yeah. I remember just combing over it and trying to find the hidden gems in there. But
I wonder if that Ring HTML is that site. Can you?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. We talked about this maybe at the convention a year or two ago, but. I think now it's maybe Mac throws is the most relevant thing that's similar to that.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of a forum, and but it's not used in the same way. Just because there's direct message streams, of conversations on Instagram all the time, and that's where most of that good convo is coming from.
Yeah, it's all kind of moved over to that. Yeah. You were telling me, interestingly enough, that your dad basically had you being coached by a lot of other people, though, which is kind of my philosophy with my son. Was I don't want to be the guy. I want somebody else to work with them, so there's no interfere. I can just be dad, and I'm glad to hear he did the same thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was foresight, luck, or some combination of the two. I'm sure it was, fatherly foresight to be like, okay, well, I still got to, I'll take him soccer practice. Yeah. And football was, he was a junior college, community college football coach and throwing coach. So I, grew up as a complete, ball boy and statistician and was in the training room for daycare. So I didn't have any thoughts that I was going to do anything but throw and ball out. But there wasn't any pressure. There wasn't any private coaching. There wasn't any of that stuff going on. So when it came time for me to want to ask him to, hey, can I throw a little bit? I think it was 7th and 8th grade. I had a really cool teacher that was into, we didn't have a track program, but he got one started, and so we did fundraising, and it was all kind of grassroots. That was really cool. And then I think I wanted throwing shoes.
No, of course.
Because I'm kind of a sneakerhead when it comes to that. So I was like, okay, well, how do I get throwing shoes? And Dad was always smart. He'd always kind of dangle the carrot a little bit and say, okay, well, we're not just going to give it to you. You got to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the shot sector and then the grass and then the dirt. And it was like, okay, well, if you throw to the dirt, we'll get you a pair of shoes.
I like that.
So that was cool, and everything was kind of dangle the carrot, show the work, reward.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started with 7-Eleven Slurpees on the way home, which just kind of is funny now, but like that's a great thing for a kid.
Big
like,
deal, yeah.
Awesome, man. And take however many throws until you get it into the dirt, and then like I remember running over the first time I threw hammer into the dirt, and he was at shot put practice. I ran over, and it was like they were a little bit skeptical because I'm doing it over there by myself.
Right?
I was like, yeah, sure you did, buddy. But once I started getting into it more and then wanting to actually get better, and freshman year of high school, it was John Donch out of Sacramento, Christian Brothers High School was like my first non-family member coach. Mm-hmm. And he would take me up there in the summer, and man, I look back at what John was doing, and it was really a science teacher, one of the best discus minds that I know of. But he would take the video and then basically do a split screen. He would take tracing paper, mm-hmm. And do these still shots, position A, position B, all the way through FG, and then he would trace my body positions, and then we'd put Wolfgang up and trace Wolfgang's, and then we would kind of layer them over. And I think about that, like that was 93, mm-hmm. 4, 5, 6. I'm like, man, that's all of the multi-$1,000 equipment that's going
Coach's eye and all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So it was cool to be exposed to that early on and look at that, and then really start to have a technical eye for things as a high school kid. Not that I was worried about it. It was just like, yeah, this is how you move, and then you try to get a high point, and you try to get your feet down, and then hit the heck out of it at the end. But I was doing turns with bungees around my waist. Freshman, sophomore year of high school.
Did your dad have some like contraption where you were inside of a barrel with a band? I remember someone talking about that.
Yeah, the turn machine.
Right.
I don't know where he found it, because this was early internet, so like it had to be in the back of a magazine,
right?
To some extent, and then it was like mail away. But the turn machine, like I need to remanufacture it.
Right.
It's so legit. Like it was on a pulley system, but you could transport it and move it to different locations if you needed to.
Yeah.
I mean, just some of those things are, it's how can you create this movement pattern, and then what can I do to, add weight and resistance, that type of thing. I probably went to maybe 2 or 3 coaches here, but guys that he trusted, that knew that, like, okay, let me take you to the shot guy. Okay, cool. Now, you're liking the shot pretty good. Okay, now what do you think about camp? And it was, I think, me kind of dropping the idea that I wanted to go to this Ironwood camp.
Yeah.
And I think that was my freshman summer.
They still do Ironwood, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting now.
What the hell is
that?
It?
So it's at North Idaho College, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is where Derek Woodsky and Crystal Johnson and all of us met, Bud Rasmussen, Bart Templeman, and it's on year, I think they just did 26.
I was going to say, it's got to be in the
25,
20s.
26.
Yeah.
It's the largest throwing camp in America. And I think they had over 400 sleepover camp, stay in the dorms, 3-4 nights, super cool. Made lifelong friends there. Met Adam Kuehl there. Met Joe Camarina. I mean, just the list goes on. It's crazy. And then went to that camp freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, and then by freshman year in college, then you kind of become a counselor, and you get to go back and do all that stuff. But Jared Rome was running that camp. Bart handed the keys over to the castle, and Jared was running that thing for, I'd say, 6 to 8 years until he passed this.
Did we find out what happened to him?
It's not, I don't think the toxicology is out yet, but died in his sleep, from what we know. And, he was home, being his Hall of Fame for his high school.
Yeah.
And, so now it's, Ironwood is going to be it's still Bart's camp.
Sure.
He started it. He's got the center. Everything is still running. We're just trying to figure out what happens next. And Jared and I have been, Bart started it, the conversation of having, because it's in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. How does a kid from New Jersey afford the ticket?
I'm wondering if I'm getting my kid from Cleveland to Idaho this year once he hears this.
Same deal, because the camp, unparalleled. You have to, there's 400 other throwers.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get that anywhere.
No, right.
And I would send my kid to Ashland camp every summer. But
Aiden goes there.
It's a Fuji apple versus a Gala apple.
Mm-hmm.
They're both really good. It's just you might prefer a different flavor.
Yeah.
So, and it's just you make those friends, and it's a sleepover thing. It's just so great. We're trying to get an Ironwood East.
Ooh, yeah.
And Jared was telling me,
good idea.
He gets at least 20 to 40 emails per year once they open up, registration. Hey, the camp is whatever it is, $800 for the week, but the ticket's $800 as well.
Yeah.
It's I could do one, but not the other.
Sure.
And they've done a great job. Ben Plunknet actually left a lot of his life savings to the camp.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so there's scholarships available for the camp, and then Ben, and then there's some other people that have done similar things. So there's need-based aid for the camp, which is, that's kind of behind the scenes, but it's pretty incredible.
You get some kid coming out of some shitty environment who needs it. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm trying to delve into that as much as I can to really try to find a location in the East. I've been talking with Kibwe Johnson about trying to maybe utilize the IMG facility. Obviously, that would really change the game.
Talk about a setting, man.
Yeah. But North Idaho College has been basically where it started.
Yeah.
So the fees are kind of grandfathered in. The per rate, per camper and nights and foods and that type of thing. And that campus is awesome. They're on Coeur d'Alene Lake, so your lunchtime, free time activities, you can run down to the beach, play sand volleyball, or go for a swim. Not bad. Pretty hard to beat. Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, and then you're surrounded by 400 other meathers, and that's great.
You're up in the pine trees, and it's a great time. It's really cool.
I'm gonna have to look into it this year for Hayden. I forgot about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's way out in the Northwest. So the publication is, it's good, and the social media is helping it a little bit, but I think the flyover states are really missing out. And a few will get into it or hear about it and maybe get it going, but we're trying to find a second location. That would be huge.
I like the idea of IMG. We were just down there a few months ago, and wow, that facility is incredible. It's funny, though, because
I actually still haven't been.
It's beautiful. And they've got, I think Kibwe said they had 7 weight rooms on campus.
Yeah.
And this crazy bastard, he's training for the Olympics underneath the bleachers all by himself. He has a power rack and a bench press and a bunch of puds and some shitty barbell. And he's just down there like a samurai training in 100-degree weather. When he's got all these fancy weight rooms just down the road from him, he could be using, but I loved it. It was great.
That's the Bondarchuk influence right there.
Yeah.
Well, and Moore Park as well.
Yeah, Kibwe's another one that you both kind of bounced around. We're everywhere.
Kibwe and I actually, it's really funny. We have opposite parallel lifestyles. He did high school in Georgia.
That's right.
But was spent half his time in California as well, and grandparents are in NorCal. And so he started at Georgia, I started at SC. We both went to school, trained a lot, didn't go to class much. And so we both just, both had to figure that out, basically flunk out. And then as we did the 4-2-4 transfer thing, we both end up at the same junior college under my dad at Moore Park Community College. And then, so Kibwe lived with us for 2 months while he got things set up. So brother from another mother situation has kind of always been there. And then I think we actually first threw against each other at the Arcadia Invite in Southern California our junior years. Yeah. And that was right when the ring and these chat rooms were kind of happening. So his high school coach actually just recently found me on Twitter and sent us an article and was like, yo, check this out. This is, there was like a little write-up. And it was like, we've heard of these big marks coming out of Atlanta, the dark horse Kipway Johnson. And it was really cool because we both realized we're in the sport still, so we realized how cool that was back then to like, start a lifelong friendship that,
I didn't really, we had met a few times, and I'd met Crystal a few times, but never had a chance to sit down and talk with either one of them. And it was about a year ago, I went down to St. Pete with my family, and I said, hey, do you guys want to do the podcast? And I tell you what, I've made lifelong friends with them. They're just
you guys
two fantastic humans.
Well. Sure.
And I learned, just his fortuitous Friday that he sends out every week is just amazing and just thought-provoking. And
he's really, I'm really loving what he's doing with the social media right now.
I'm so psyched he's taking another shot at this.
Yeah. It's been on the back burner for a minute, and now it's finally, time to put up. And you look at Kip, he never got out of shape.
No.
And obviously helping, the coaching helps so much.
Yeah, I bet.
And staying active physically, obviously, but then doing the drills and thinking about the throws through, the different angles that your kids are having challenges with. And I think that year or two after you stop throwing and are coaching, you might be your best.
When I quit Highland games, I lost a ton of weight, but when I came back, my technique was way better.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was still, if I get that foot down and just get it turning a little faster, And I remember coming out like 2 years later in Florida and just throwing damn near pro marks, 50 pounds less body weight.
Not training. Yeah, right.
It's all mental stuff.
But. Yeah, that's a bit that doesn't really get talked about much. It's the mental reps.
Yeah.
And how you think about it, and the sports psych side of, can you see when you close your eyes and you see your throw? Like, what perspective do you see it from? Do you see it from the back of the ring, from the side of the ring, from the front, from above?
Yeah.
Can you those types of things? I think once you stop throwing, or you start to think about it when your head hits the pillow, that's where the really good stuff starts to happen.
Yeah, that's for you can't turn your brain off for sure. Do you ever think about getting back in it? You're almost master's level now, right?
I have thought about it every month since I've stopped throwing, and there's been 3 or 4 weeks where I've trained.
Right. Yeah.
And then, administrative duties, recruiting duties, house projects.
Sure.
You get it. And when I do throw, and I go out and throw with the kids, and I spend an hour throwing, I realize how meditative it is and how simple it is. And I'm really thankful that I was able to do it for that long.
Yeah.
But I'm really envious that that's all these kids have to worry about.
Sure, I know, totally, yeah.
That hour and a half, 2 hours being out in the field and throwing, gosh, it's so nice. There's different levels of, meditation and like just focusing on the rhythm of the throw, throwing the implement, walking out to get it, replaying the throw, picking it up, coming back in, maybe drilling a little bit. That type of behavior is really fun. It's probably my favorite thing to do besides, shoot hoops or, go fishing. So it's just harder on the body. A lot easier to shoot hoops or go fishing.
I hung it up all together last year because it was just I would hit positions. Yeah. And it was almost like if I hit a good position, I was going to hurt something.
I might tear something.
Yep.
And that's what throwing is, though.
Yeah, and that's it.
To create that disassociation between your lower and upper body. And weekend warrior throwing, not smart. No,
yeah. And then, you'd go out and throw, and you'd hit a really good position, and, you'd throw the 28, 68 feet, and you're just like, fuck. That's you just won the competition, but my PR was 86, and now I'm throwing 68.
It has to be over 70 on your first warm-up, otherwise it don't count.
Yeah, or it's just horrible.
Right. It is, but when I do throw, I still love it. I've got a young group of girls, so we're throwing the discus a lot. So, toying around and throwing the 1K, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm not trying to make it go anywhere.
Right.
But just going through the movements is that Lance Steele said it, just visiting an old friend.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at with it. Would I, I'd love to be on the infield in Oregon in June. We'll see if there's enough time with new fatherhood and minimalist training to get that going. But I'm drilling a lot, and those reps.
You never know. Yeah, absolutely.
It's cool to know that Kip's going to be there. So
I'm super psyched. I've talked to him this year, and I've talked to Sean Donnelly this year, and you two opposite sides of the spectrum. You got the old lion and the young bull coming up, and both fantastic guys, and I'd love to see both of them.
Absolutely, would that
make
be
it.
Cool? I was talking to Kipway recently, and Sean's name came up, and he was giving him credit, saying that, man, some of the stuff that he's doing at his young age. He said, I just figured out in the last few years.
Yeah.
So I think Sean's really ahead of the curve on a few things.
We just had him. That podcast hasn't even been released yet, so that'll come out in a couple weeks. And he had some really cool stuff to talk about and what he's doing at the training center.
Yeah, he's doing some really good stuff as he gets more comfortable with those competitions and starts to be able to do it. And hammer's an old man sport. Mm-hmm. He should be in this thing for a decade.
Yeah.
And the support now is so much better than when we were coming out of school in early 2000s. But someone's got to pave the way. Mm-hmm. So guys like A.G. Kruger and Kipway and Bert Soren before right in there as well. You bounce at the bar, you take a shitty job, and do what you can so that you can train all day, and then live a minimalist lifestyle. And now there's a talent protection program, and there's, post-collegiate funding, and I think obviously with social media, you can create your own NASCAR sponsorship situation from the local, dairy farmer to a supplement company to, 3-4 other things that now are free income.
Yeah.
And now maybe you can just drive Uber. That's what my post-collegiate athlete is doing now, Morgan Shigo. He's got Velasa as a sponsor, Earthfed Muscle as a sponsor, and you drive Uber.
Yeah.
And you just don't live like an asshole and, live within your means, and that's going to be okay.
I did, I took shitty jobs and just so I could train, and for Highland games, Right. I was just like, this isn't my career. This is what I want to do. But
right. So you were working in the prison system?
I was working, at a juvenile detention center for most of my career. Bounced before that, and then I went the adult system and went the juvenile system. But it was basically
it's so negative, right?
It is horrible. It's like being in jail for 19 years. And I always talk about one of the main drivers behind this podcast, was the fact that when I was throwing, I was living this miserable existence where I had to throw far to earn money to pay my car payment and my apartment payment and all this shit. And he was in a bad marriage, and I was working this shitty job just so I could throw, and it was just like... And then,
that was the savage.
Yeah, right?
That was the savage lifestyle.
Yeah, and now it's like I get to take a breath, so I'm in a good marriage, I've got a good job, the podcast makes a little bit of money, but it's for sure not work. I'm sitting here, I get to talk to you, I'm, going to Key West and talking to people, and, it's just a lot better.
That's the personal growth thing that that changes from the 20s to 30s to 40s. And if you're not finding that personal growth, then that's the trick. I think that's the key.
Yeah,
starting to really see that a lot more. What you choose to give your time and attention to.
Yeah, it's your whole being, right? I mean, it's what you look at your life and see, what am I spending the most time on, and that'll tell you what's important to you.
Right.
And when you're spending 8 hours a day at some job that is just absolutely dreadful, and then you come home and you're dealing with people who are absolutely dreadful, and it just...
Yeah, it's hard to be in a real great mood.
Yeah, you got to get out of that rut, and I tell people that all the time, and yeah, it's been good, though, since the last time we got to hang out in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so where are the Highland Games at now? Like, are you keeping your eyes or ears,
finger on the pulse.
at
There's
all.
a lot of crazy shit going on now. I'm not as in. I've talked to a lot of the pro guys on the show.
Yeah. With McKim out and that class of, Celtic Classic, like Matt Vincent, you, Kerry Overfelt, McKim, who am I missing?
Craig Smith, Zolkowitz,
yeah, and then one or two others that would kind of rotate in.
Andy Vincent.
Yeah, and once that class kind of graduated out, I haven't really paid that much attention
so
to.
the and people are going to be pissed at me, but the numbers are down for the most part. The throwing numbers are down for the most part. Spencer is by far
Spencer's
and
the
away
holdover from that class, right?
Yeah. He's by far and away the best. And he's had some issues lately, but this is coming from me, not from Luke. So if anyone's listening to this, I've had some discussions with the lady who runs Jane, who runs Celtic Classic, and I've always been under the thought that you're drug testing Celtic, and now all the numbers are way down, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If your most important thing is that you want to have a clean event, and
Sure.
But I think with a strength sport, that's going to happen.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to have numbers falling as the drug testing gets better and better.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I am for not track and field. That's an Olympic type sport. This is like pro wrestling.
Entertainment, right?
Entertainment. If you're a grown man and you want to take drugs and throw far in the Highland Games or strongman, go for it.
That was the conversation that Matt Vincent and I had, often, and I think both you and Matt probably changed my mind a little. I looked at it through such a track and field scope that cheating is cheating.
Yeah.
And doping is cheating. Therefore, that is cheating. Very black and white. Versus when you really think about the Highland Games, hey, there's this thing going on this weekend. There's they got dancing and they got beer and scotch. That's what people are going to see. So are they concerned about I wonder what his squad is. How many hours a week is he training? Does he have his own implements? Do they go to a gym? They don't know any of that stuff. So that's entertainment. They're going out for a little festival for the weekend. Yes. Just like a bacon fest or a county fair.
They just want to see freaks.
Yeah. So that I get that too. And that's the fine line of that sport though. And this, how many organizations have there been in the Highland Games over the last 30 years? I remember the SAAA when I was 8, 10, 12 years old, and I remember the meetings being after Pleasanton, and I was rolling my eyes because I wanted to go home, and they had to stay after and have meetings. Right. And then things going to change, and now there's 3 different world champs. Yeah. And which one are you?
Which is the worst thing that can happen is that you end up being like powerlifting, where you have 3 different world championships. Yeah. It's.
But Spencer is still on top of the mountain.
Yeah, he's had some issues of late. Not related to how far he throws,
injury
but
stuff.
Life stuff, and I'm not too up on it. But
and Celtic just passed, right?
Yeah, September last week of September.
Yeah, we had some recruiting that weekend. I was dying to make it over there and see. I think the last year I went was my first year here, and McKim was in. Yeah, and Matt might have been in his first to last year because his knee was still bummed, so he couldn't run off strong, but he was still,
It was nice. I got to compete with so many guys. So, when I started out, McGoldrick and Ben Plucknett were still throwing.
Yeah, you're right.
And when I retired, Matt Vincent and Dan McKim were still winning championships and everything. I remember
that was the sweet spot, man.
Yeah, it really was. I remember 36 feet in the 56 was winning the world championships.
Wow, yeah.
And then 46 was winning it when I retired. That's crazy.
Right.
But yeah, I got to see everybody, and Harrison Bailey and Paul, God rest his soul.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. We got to mention the Pennsylvania boy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's been great. It's probably the coolest sport related to throwing and weightlifting that kind of combines the two, and
then you can actually make money.
I made more money in Highland Games than I ever made in track and field.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's it is what it is. I think there's a lot more opportunity now in track and field and being a post-collegiate thrower. And,
Reggie Jaggers has 26,000 Instagram followers or whatever. You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to monetize things now, and if you're smart and you're business minded, you can do some things and set that up, which is awesome. It should be completely open and free enterprise to do.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking this whole time. We haven't talked about what you're doing here at Penn State hardly at all. But so year 4, you said?
Year 4, yeah.
And what's on the agenda for indoors is coming up, right?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Tell me about Peyton, Montana. How is she doing?
Awesome, man. We just finished up. First year was tougher than we both would have liked. Mm-hmm. Now we're going into year 2. We've got some. So her first outdoor meet was her season's best in the shot and the discus. In all my years coaching, that's never happened before. Yeah. So we kind of delved into that and looked into the reasonings why and how and because. But the freshman marks are pretty solid. But we're in the Big Ten. Big Ten is the most deep and competitive throwing conference in the NCAA. SEC is going to argue that, but when you look at the numbers over like a 10-year period, the depth is pretty ridiculous.
And I've had 3 of you, younger coaches on here. You, Ashley, and Eric, who are just killing it.
Yeah, right. And that's like we all joke with each other, like, "Hey, you gonna move out of the Big Ten yet? Like, is anyone retiring?"
Right.
But I mean, when you look around, I get it. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. Either way, however you cut it, we're the 2 most competitive and deep programs. So if you come in as a freshman female, and your weights don't change, you went from the front of the line to the back of the line, and how are we going to get better? So technique, trust, finding a new established motor pattern is kind of what we set up this last year. She's probably the strongest female athlete at Penn State.
Oh, wow.
I would assume.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that there's basketball, softball, soccer that's lifting more. So, we need to keep developing that. Like, how strong do you need to be? How quick do you need to be? How much power do we need to output?
It's always that fine line, right? Trying to figure that out.
And so she, priority is shot put, but her discus is really coming along, and I keep working on the hammer to just keep her balanced and not have it only be left side driven. So, she was the biggest signee that we had here at Penn State, state record holder, a really, great connection with Dane and garage strength. And
supposed to have him on the podcast next month.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He'll be a great talk. You're going to have to... I'll give you a few things to sprinkle out for him, get him going. But Peyton, her plan is to be, a multi-time All-American, and I think this year is going to be the second year. I think is where you can really from your first year. The first year is going to be tough. Some kids have success, a lot don't.
You're dealing with a whole new life too, not just throwing.
Everything is new, right? You're living in a dorm, you're eating different food, your parents aren't around, all the stuff that everyone knows. So year 2, she's a lot more. We're a lot more established in what the plan is, and we're making really good gains right now. Her technique has looked as good as it has, and we're throwing some different weighted implements and trying to move that needle up a little bit, from the stand throw. And so when I got her stand throw, non-reverse only, she never reversed from a stand, never really done half turns. So, just some of the things that I typically teach kids she hadn't done. So how long does that take to get comfortable with, A, and then B, good at?
Yeah,
and then C, implement into your full throw. And then, I did it on Wednesday in practice, feel pretty good. Saturday, I don't know if I feel comfortable with it now. And then, you kind of go from there. So, but Peyton's great. We've got another 1 or 2 kind of in the pipeline as well that aren't names yet, but hopefully will become names this year and next year. So we've got 4 girls that are sophomore or freshmen, and then the javelin group as well. So my plan is to continue to have one of the best throwing programs in the NCAA. There's 3 or 4 schools that are kind of always in that conversation, and how many do you qualify on, and what are the marks, and just try to keep that quality up, and have a well balanced throws group. Having 7 javelin throwers, as well as 12 heavy event throwers.
That's a big squad.
It's a big group, man. Justin Sinclair at North Dakota State has the largest squad. He always will. He's got like 26, 32 throwers. It's a track team full of throwers. It's amazing. But when you're in a javelin state, you're always going to have a little bigger group because you got, 8, 10 javelin throwers. So I try to keep it at 4 and 4 if I can.
Yeah.
Any given year, there's going to be a little ebb and flow there. And then about, 10 other throwers. So, keep the quality up, have them trained in small groups, and, continue. We're in like week 12, 14 of training right now. So starting to get into some good weights in the weight room and starting to just move from outside to inside. And then we're, within a month, we'll do some testings and do a little inter squad meet at the end of the semester. That's always fun to kind of split into blue versus white.
Right, yeah.
Do something like that. We'll have a little throws giving celebration meal coming up here this next weekend. And then we'll start to kind of establish some goals and start to talk about the intermediate steps that we need to take in order to kind of get them set up. And then some of the younger kids, get them to understand what training through is going to feel like. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're going to a meet on Saturday. Yes, we're going to wear uniforms and the marks are going to count. But we're also squatting on Friday.
Yeah.
And then we're going to clean on Monday. Right?
Super hard to get kids to, I deal with kids and parents who, they don't want to lift before some baseball game that has like no significance. And I'm like, we're going to lift right through it. And then later on, you're going to be better off for it.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Watch their, like swimmers watching their times go down a little bit. And,
Yeah. But, that's, we talked about earlier, establishing relationships, and then with that relationship, trust is being built, and communication is hopefully happening for the most part both ways, but at least from coach to athlete, so they understand, what the plan is, why, and then hopefully, those results show up a little bit, and then, okay, cool, what's new? What's next? What's the next challenge?
Yeah, once you establish that trust, then they want all that stuff. They want all the corrections, where they might not want it as a freshman.
Yeah. So I guess otherwise within the group, David Lucas is a returning NCAA champ in the indoor weight, and he's a fifth-year senior.
That's right. So he won that last year kind of by accident.
Yeah, accidentally won an NCAA title, and I didn't think I'd ever say that, but he laughs about it, I laugh about it, and it's 100% true.
Yeah.
That was my second year working with him. The first year we had some pretty good success, but he hadn't thrown weight much. He was a discus thrower primarily, but he's a competitive guy and a thrower, and Morgan Shigo was kind of the best thrower in that event group, and so then it was like, okay, go chase him, get better, and he's 6'5" with a 6'7" reach, and he's quite strong and very vascular and lean and dynamic, and he can sprint and run. So it's like, okay, well, I'm an idiot if I can't get him to throw far.
Yeah, right.
So
that explosive.
I think his PB is 60 point in the discus, but he's been at 60 point for 3 years. So like he can throw the same way and throw 60, 61, in the right conditions. So we're really stripping it down this last spring after he had a bulging disc, injured his back. So it took a lot of good time to get body awareness and go through the proper PT and get strong and get healthy. Now he's just starting to get some numbers back in the weight room, and we're just hounding the technique right now. We're watching a lot of it. Well, we're not watching as much video now, but I think he's a 65-plus meter guy in the discus, and so we're trying to work hard to get there. And, if that's the case, then, then we can train through the season, and then hopefully we can play back around with the indoor events and not really take away that much from the discus.
Yeah.
So that'll be really exciting there. Tyler Merkley is redshirted last year, was a hammer thrower at Kansas State his first year, and then took his Mormon mission, so he's been away, came back, redshirted last year, but actually hit a PB or two. So we'll be excited to get him in uniform and get him going. The hammer group should be good, men's and women's side. And, discus is developing up. The girls have some good technique there, but it's been maybe a little bit breaking the old high school technique, building it up.
Yeah.
And then javelin's always going to be pretty strong, and then we're really trying to get these shot putters going with Peyton and Ben Peterson, who's a Solon, Ohio high school product as well. Pat Ebel signed him before I came in, so he's had a pretty big physical transformation, going from quite big to a little bit lean and strong, and now a little bit thicker and strong.
Yeah.
So we're trying to kind of find that sweet spot and get his technique dialed in, and keep that men's shot put tradition going here, because not having a finalist in the Big Ten, which is super duper competitive, is felt like a failure to me this last year. So we got to get that back going.
Well, that's good though. That's why you're here, right? You want that should feel like a failure to you. You know,
absolutely. And Joe Kovacs, Darrell Hill, and the all-time list is, that's the interesting thing. Penn State's such a good track and field program, and they've had a lot of good head coaches.
Pennsylvania in general is so good at track.
Absolutely. Track, wrestling, and football. It's just the sports here are, they're taken pretty seriously.
Yeah.
And every small town in between has got, a great wrestling program or a good football team. And I'm actually heading out to watch a football game tonight. So that's like I told you before, that's why I took this job. I got an unsolicited email saying that this job was going to be open when I was out west at Ironwood Camp, and I didn't know Coach Gondak yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never met him. I don't think I'd ever even seen him. But he was at Georgia Tech, maybe as a grad assistant when I was at University of Georgia. And you never know who's watching you.
Yeah,
You never know who's paying attention, or who you may see on the way up or the way down, et cetera. So whoever's in your Rolodex when you need to ask for someone, who do you know? That's how this whole coaching thing started. Jacob Freeman knew Brian Monshine. Brian Monshine was leaving Southeastern Louisiana. He called, hey, who's in your Rolodex? And then I moved from Portland, Oregon, packed up a Ryder truck, and drove to Louisiana. And that was 3 years there. It was awesome. That was probably the best coaching.
Living that track lifestyle, just bouncing around, teaching kids how to throw shit.
Yeah, until now, which is nice. Bought our first house here. Now it's, actually put an addition on the house. Now we got Parker. And like I said, when I came here, I was like, okay, we're not going anywhere for a while.
It's one of those top of the mountain schools, right? I mean, it's not like you're going to go from Penn State to,
everything's level.
Boston College. This is it. This is the pinnacle.
The thing that I like so much about here is I live 3.5 miles away.
Yeah.
And I've got all these tailgating fields right across the street that I can walk my dog. And we've got like acres of just open space,
right.
Rolling hills with gravel driveways that I can roll through that are really casual.
I've never been to this campus before, and it's different. I've been to Ohio State a million times, and Ohio State is in Columbus. You are in the city, and this is just beautiful. Yeah. The campus is just beautiful, and it's wide open, and
there's lots of space. And then like our outdoor track, all of the athletics are on the east side of campus, and then the indoor track and the outdoor track are adjacent to each other, but then the throwing field is on the east portion of, the property line. So when we're out throwing, I've got no distractions.
Yeah.
And the view is Mount Nittany in the back, and then Beaver Stadium, the football stadium, and then Bryce Jordan Center, and then our indoor track. So I can drive my truck from the house and park right at the cage and bring my dog to the track within 5 minutes. So that's kind of what I grew up around at the community college setting. So I was like, man, this is what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. This is the quality of life I'm looking for. But there's no way you could get that at a big school unless you're at Penn State.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it feels to me. So when Stanford comes calling, or SC comes calling, I don't think they can. For me, lifestyle wise, I can't. It's not the same.
Well, that was one of the things we talked about with Judd, because Judd had talked about all
Judd's
these
had
schools.
50 job offers.
Yep, and he asked me. I said, I basically said, how are you turning down this money?
Yeah.
And he basically. He did. He said to me, well, he says, look what you're doing now. He goes, would you give that up to be somebody's employee for more money? And I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. I understand.
That's absolutely it. And like having mentors and, people like Judd and seeing, others that maybe haven't taken that route that, Brian Bedard is a good example at Colorado State, when you name the top, Alabama, Texas A&M, et cetera, like in track and field, like Colorado State's not in that conversation. Mm-hmm. But I look at, he's one of the best throwing coaches in the NCAA, and he's been at the same school for as long as anyone has.
Yeah.
And, he's got a good niche thing going, and he's now the head coach. So you kind of control things, and, you can kind of come and go as you please. Obviously, you work hard. They got to, you get your fundraising, where it's going to go, and, the pressure on winning is there.
Yeah.
Everyone's competitive, but, it's not Texas A&M.
Yeah, and just like football, you look at, not that Nick Saban isn't a fantastic coach, but
sure.
I mean, how much better would he have to be if he wasn't getting the best athletes in the country every single year, And,
absolutely.
And some of these coaches that are at smaller schools just killing it, doing great work, with not maybe the cream of the crop.
That's the Boise State model, right?
Right, yeah, right, yeah. Excellent. Well, man, I wish you luck. I'm super psyched for you being here, and it's been great seeing you.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
You going to be in Ohio anytime soon? Go and do the Ashland stuff?
I think with having the baby this year, we're holding it down. We have we will. Big Ten indoor championships are at Spire.
Oh, cool!
So we'll be right down the road from you.
Maybe I'll give you a holler. Maybe I'll travel out. We'll go get a coffee or something.
Yeah, that's a good one, and it's I believe
I'll bring Hayden out to that.
Yeah, bring him to come watch because there's gonna be great throwing.
Yeah.
The indoor weight record was set there by Learman back in the day in that same circle. We'll try to have David in the best shape possible.
Yeah.
I know. Ashley's going to be bringing a lot of talent into the meet. Risky's going to be bringing a lot of talent.
She's a stud down there. I'm so happy for her too, man. The three of you guys I've had on the show from the Big Ten just could not be better humans, and it's just cool watching you guys succeed. And
I appreciate it. No, I think we all respect and enjoy each other as well.
Yeah,
there's something to that. We're all going to work hard. We're all in our own silos doing our own thing, and we want to have as much success possible. But I think speaking for myself, we're all trying to make kids better versions of themselves.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're doing a similar thing in different ways, And Eric was a shot putter. Ashley was a shot putter. I was a discus hammer thrower. So, you get a little different version of the same thing,
mm-hmm.
And then the competitiveness is so high in the Big Ten. So, 60 feet doesn't get you in the final,
Yeah, she said she's looking at people that she doesn't think you can throw 20 meters.
I'm not even signing you.
Yeah,
I know.
You can't. What are you gonna do?
Yep. Yeah, it's really competitive. But I'm sure there's a little bit of an ebb and flow and a cycle there. But I think with the Big Ten, the difference because I'm from California. I started in the Pac-10, Pac-12, and then went to the SEC. I kind of skipped the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
But with the weather and all the indoor facilities, you have to throw indoor stuff far.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to throw it, so now the competitive level rises up because you're spending 2, 3, 4 months inside throwing indoor shots and indoor weights. So that's why the weight is so good, and that's why the shot is so deep because everyone's doing it more. You're getting more reps, and now it's just more dense. So when you look at those, NCAA lists every few years, it's Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, everyone's in the mix there. You have to score points at the conference.
It's fun. It's fun to watch, and I will definitely be out at Spire for that one. And because that's a good opportunity just down the road from us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll hang out.
Sweet, man.
All right, brother. This has been the Refined Savage. See ya.